days.
Yeah. What are the events that you have going on this week besides ours next week?
So today is meeting day for me. For the rest of the winter, I made Tuesdays meeting days.
Okay.
After this, I'm going to a hopeful meeting at Mad for Chicken in Plainview.
Oh, cool.
You been there?
Yeah.
Awesome spot.
So I am an original Mad for Chicken fan, the one in the city.
Okay.
I don't know who it was. Actually, I do. I remember it was Ryan Costello's cousin's friend.
Okay.
He was like a music industry guy, and we went into the city to meet him, like around the Staff Fest days.
Mm-hmm. Was it a descendant of Ginger Root?
Yeah, I think it was on that side. I'm not sure. He was like a distant cousin, like a second cousin or something. And he just took us to this place. And he was like, "You're gonna have the best chicken, and like just some good beer, some good chicken." They bring out like the double fried Korean chicken. When you order it, they're like, "This is gonna take 45 minutes. Are you okay with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's why I came
That sounds fucking great." And yeah, we went. It was like turntable chicken is what it was called at the time, and then they turned it into something else. And they had 2 or 3 locations in the city. They had like one downtown that I went to with some friends when they came in, and then when I saw the one in Plainview a couple of years ago, I was like, and it's just as good, the chicken.
I've never experienced crispy fried boneless thighs like that with such flavor.
It's so nuts.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got to be the worst thing you could possibly eat, but
you know. I mean, listen.
But it's worth it for splurge. I mean, it's like you got to go through like a hard layer of breading to get to the thing. What are you doing with them? Or hopefully doing with them?
Well, she's an embroiderer, so, you know.
Oh, you're meeting someone there for lunch.
Yes, but she is friends with the owner, so I'm sure somehow it'll connect. Everything does. I went out the other night randomly to an Italian restaurant in the city and walked in, extremely Tuscan, felt like feeling everything. Menu was beautiful, and I start talking to the guy. Manager or owner comes out, and he pulls out a map, an old school map of Italy, and starts going over regional cuisine with the bartender. And I was like, I have to chime in at some point. So we started talking, and we were going back and forth for like 10 minutes. I started talking about products that I import and distribute. And now next week when I go back to the city, I got to bring him some samples of stuff.
That's awesome.
You know, it all just falls into place.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you're like passionate about something and you're just out there like talking about it.
Just
people
happens.
like gravitate towards you. I remember having like conversations in a Chipotle, just like loud, passionate conversations over lunch, and like people coming up to us and being like, "Hey, what are you talking about?"
Yeah,
like it's interesting when you do something like that.
That happened to me at Soul Brew like 2 weeks ago, up the block. I was sitting with my sales executive, and I had a box of products with me, and these 3 gentlemen next to me, they're on their retired coffee day, and same thing, just pops over and starts asking questions. And as I'm explaining my products to my sales girl, I'm passing them off to this table next to me because they're just as interested in it.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. I learned a lot this past summer on a trip to Italy about the different regions and like the city-state culture of Italy.
Yes.
And I'm sure you learned a ton of that when you were over there studying.
That's pretty much what we graduated with. We're ambassadors of regional Italian cuisine. So, you know, out here it's the fight for like Sicilian, Napolitan, Roman, and that's it. But, you know, if you dig into like the real, like you said, city style food, it's very classical. It's like peasant food style. I mean, I just bought a book the other day, probably like maybe second or third time in my life I bought a book. It's called La Cucina. It's 1,000 pages, and it's 2,000 regional Italian recipes. I don't even know where to buy half of this meat requirements that these recipes consist of, because there is just zero waste in Italy.
Yeah.
Zero waste.
Yeah, we went to this like market, like a meat market in Florence that we were walking around, like little hidden back thing, like you would walk into in Manhattan over by the water or something, like just a classical like meat market. And we were eating like everything from the cow and everything from like, they brought this out and I would eat it and they were like, what was that? And they would be like, stomach. I was like, oh cool, stomach's good. Yeah,
it's stuff that you wouldn't dare eat or, you know, think that you know enough to buy.
I told you it was gonna happen. It lied to you. That's all right, go for it.
Battery died
right in the middle.
You know, there's just so many parts of the animal where, you know, these days you can really only go buy, and truthfully in an Asian market, like an H Mart,
Yeah.
is the only place that you would find that stuff packaged and ready to go.
Like tripe and things.
Tripe, different pieces of the head, soaking bones to get collagen out of it. I mean, that's normal, but livers, hearts, just everything.
Yeah. So where does your story start? Does it start in Italy? Does it start further back?
I feel like it starts in Italy officially, but it was taken a little before. I mean, right after high school, I went into the Air Force. I was an air traffic controller for about a year and a half, and through government cutbacks, I was able to leave honorably on an honorable discharge after a year and a half because they were cutting back a lot of people from the Air Force. And when I came out of the Air Force, I tried to go civilian. I took the test a couple times, but it's a 1 in a million shot to become an air traffic controller, especially in New York. And that test is no joke. There's no studying for the test, and it is just it's a mind crack. I mean, it's pretty intense. So I took it 3 times. I went through the process, but obviously my life moved on from point to point. There's like a year in between those tests. So that's when my mom started suggesting stuff, and then she sent me culinary school at the International Culinary Center in downtown Manhattan to take the Italian culinary program, which was half in New York City and half in Italy. So, I ended up going with that. I was 10 weeks in the city, so I became a commuter. That was the first time I was commuting, which, I learned about commuter life. And truthfully, I thought it was amazing that every single morning, people take the same exact train, sit in the same exact seat, see the same exact people, park in the same exact parking spot. It was kind of wild. I used to walk for 7 minutes from the subway to my school and past 4 Starbucks, which I thought was insane. But I would still stop at the coffee cart because it's always better. So 10 weeks in the city, it was intensive Italian cuisine, intro to sommelier tasting, and intensive Italian language. Because then when we go to Italy, we're in school for 10 weeks there. Part of the courses are in Italian, and then we go do an internship by ourselves. So you kind of need to know Italian enough to get yourself by. So that experience was absolutely wild. It was in Colorno, which was a little town outside of Parma. Our school was in Napoleon's castle. It was literally a 2-story castle. And we learned different regions types of cuisines. So every week we had a chef from a different region of Italy that would come and demo for us the entire day. We'd all hang out in the classroom, and they would cook for us. There was cameras all over, mirrors, and they would feed us. So that's what we got to learn, real traditional regional cuisine. That's everything that we did in the school was extremely secretive. We couldn't even bring our own food home, which is wild because we basically lived in a dormitory.
Why was that?
To our understanding, they just really needed to keep everything within the school. There was no recipe book. We had to really we had one girl who was with us. She was next NYPD cop, and she was the mom of the group, and she was we need printouts. We're coming to school with printouts. So there was always a couple people who made sure that we had something to have with us. We paid a lot of money to go to school. You're not even letting us bring dinner home. So that would force us into this real local culture. The bars that were outside the school, the trattorias, the pizzerias, the bakeries. That's as real as it gets.
Just go around with a notebook and
pretty much
learn and take notes.
We would leave school at 4 or 5 o'clock. Sometimes they would put our sommelier class at the end of the day, so it was pregame 101. It's not our fault though, because they didn't put us in the proper wine room, so we didn't have the sinks to spit in. So what are you gonna do? But yeah, we would leave school and you'd sit at these bars, and you order a drink. And in Italy, aperitivo time is pretty much time where these restaurants, they have to feed you. So you buy a drink and the food is free, and it's the most cost-effective way and really the most tasty way to eat between 5 and 7 p.m. You order wine, they will just start bringing over food, whether it's focaccia or pasta, or some places have, in Milan, a lot of these bars will just open up a full buffet, for 2 hours, and it's a full spread. Last time I traveled solo, I was really balling on a budget. And there was $15 Heineken, but it included the buffet. And I'm yes, absolutely. Because Heineken is very prominent in Italy, oddly enough. They have a lot of their own bars. But, you're going to get the coldest, freshest Heineken that you're going to get within Europe other than being in Germany. Ireland?
Amsterdam?
Pff, sorry.
I think it's Amsterdam. Because I went there. I went to the Heineken factory.
I'm a Peroni guy. Sorry. So,
yeah, people in Italy, they don't eat dinner till like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you go out to a restaurant at 7 o'clock and like you're the only one there.
Yeah, pretty much, because everyone just started eating at 5 o'clock. Like, I was the first one at this buffet because I was taking the train. I was going to the Formula One race in Monza. So I stopped at this buffet before I got on the train because I like a 2-hour journey, and I was really the first one there. But then people started piling in real fast, and yeah, you think about it, like that's literally appetizer time for them. They still have the entire night ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I was just using it for like, a really good cold beer and unlimited buffet. I'm like, no problem. So I
have a really funny story. This past year, we went to, in August, we went to a friend's wedding in Florence, and we brought our 6-month-old with us. So we took the trip over there. We went to the wedding, and we were like, all right, we'll turn it into a little family vacation. The wedding stuff was only 2 days. Right. It was like the welcome dinner and then the actual wedding event. And so we went up to Lake Garda.
Okay.
We went to this. It was a really nice place, right on the water. It was really fun. Good, like family friendly place. So it was good with the 6-month-old at the time. And the last night we go to this restaurant, and it's about 6:30, 7 o'clock we get there. So we're the only ones there. We're like, this is perfect. We'll get in. We have the kid. We'll put her to sleep around like 8 o'clock. It'll still be good. And she wasn't really like eating solid food too much. She was eating like little bits of things. And so we went on a wine tour earlier in the day, and I gave her some cheese, but I was like mushing it up in my fingers so that she could have some cheese. And she really liked it. And then Holly saw me doing that, and she gave her a little piece of cheese at dinner while she's strapped in with her, and she choked on it and projectile vomited.
Oh my God.
All over Holly. All over the floor in this restaurant.
They're deporting you.
It was outside, luckily. And luckily, like, there was nobody else in this restaurant. So Holly gets up. She runs back to the hotel. I've got a baby that's covered that I'm, like, changing out in the open. And it was disgusting. And it took, like, 30 minutes for her to get to the hotel, change, and then come back.
Jesus.
So by the time she came back, all the food was on the table. I'd cleaned up Harper, and I had gone inside, got, like, pitchers full of water, and I was just, like, cleaning and hosing it down. And then, like, 30 minutes later, whole restaurant was packed, and nobody knew. But we knew. It was disgusting. Anyway.
But so yeah, we were at school in Italy for 10 weeks, and then from there we all went to different regions to do a stage, which is basically an internship. I don't know.
I learned it from is it Chef, the show?
Yes.
On FX. I learned stage from that.
Yeah, so the stage. So I requested to go to a bigger city. I don't really know why. I just kind of did, just being from here, I guess. I was like, I really didn't want to go to a tiny town. So I ended up going to Milan. The stipulation to that was that I had to get my own apartment because most restaurants around Europe house their chefs. That's a pretty normal thing. Most of them all live together. The chef life is different over there. You work, live, and breathe those kitchens. You're there all day, every day. You're living together. You're going on vacation together. So, I was kind of immersed in that environment. I had my own little 1-bedroom apartment in Milan. I learned the second day, maybe the first day, that I didn't have a washing machine. And it was the second week of August. I don't know if you know what happens, like the second half of August. The country goes on vacation.
Yeah, Ferragosto.
Yes, Ferragosto. The country goes on vacation. So the country includes laundromats and everything. So, I have a very nice gentleman at the front desk, and I had asked him, I said, are there any wash and dryers in these buildings? So he's like, yeah, some units have them. I said, okay, well, mine doesn't. I said, oh, yeah, no problem. There's a laundromat up the block. No problem. That's fine. I was in a chef uniform every single day, so it didn't matter. So, I take a walk to the laundromat, and that's when I remembered, oh, right, everyone's on vacation
closed
for 2 weeks. So how did I do my laundry for the entire time I was in Milan? Every night when I came home, I took my chef uniform off, and I washed it out in the bidet, because that was the only thing that it got used for. I washed them out, I strained out my clothes, and I hung them in the window to dry overnight.
Nice. You're a real Italian now.
I mean, there was no other way. And then after about the second week, the doorman told me that I was causing a disturbance from curb appeal and that I couldn't use the window to dry my clothes anymore. And I literally said, you could put a beep here. I said, what the fuck do you want me to do? So, you know, the drying boards, the fold-out ones?
Yeah.
He gave me one of those. And then I learned that from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m., you can leave your clothes on the drying rack under the fan and they'll dry. Mm-hmm. So laundry was a project in Italy. So I was there for 2.5 months. We all go back to the school. We go take a final. We do a class. No, we do a dish based on the region that we were in, and then they also give us a dish to do. So I did risotto Milanese, which is risotto with saffron and osso buco on top. And you didn't leave Italy unless you knew how to make risotto. That was a big thing. You'll get to experience that on Thursday.
Me so hungry. Yeah, I'm excited for the risotto. That's gonna be good.
You know, if you've ever made risotto, you know that it's, you know, specific time. It's got to be eaten pretty much immediately, and it's, you know, it's very precise. So I was the first one after lunch to present for these judges, and I was making my risotto. I was told they were going to be there at noon, and then I finished my risotto for noon, and then was told that the judges were going to be about 10 minutes late. So if your risotto is done, already emulsified, everything, butter and cheese is in it, and then you're told that your guests are going to be late, that's when you know how to speak Italian, is when hands go up and you start yelling at people. But the experience was absolutely insane. You know, we went to the World's Fair in Milan because the owner of our school was the president of the World's Fair. So we were there with a dinner, a white coat dinner with the heads of chefs from all around, the heads of state from all around the world. So like chef of the White House, chef of Buckingham Palace, the chef of the Italian president, They were there. And then 10 New Yorkers who had no business being there. It was awesome. So that experience is where the book started because, you know, I've used that school at this point to get a lot of relationships that I have had, that I've created because of that. Unfortunately, the New York side of the school is no longer because the owner unfortunately passed away in a car accident, and she was the school. So like once that happened, I do believe that ICE took it over. So the International Culinary Center isn't a school anymore, and that was the school that was the connection to Alma, which is the school that's in Colorno. So, you know, now that I'm doing everything, everybody always says, you know, you're always destined to do what you're doing. You know, there is a very small group of us who got to experience that double-sided program, who are living here and who are basically the next generation of authentic Italian importers, distributors, chefs. You know,
and nobody else is going to be able to experience that exact program ever again.
You know, that everything about it, you know, being at the World's Fair, the year of every year at the World's Fair, it's a different theme. This year happened to be food sustainability around the world. So I like to think that for this area, like I'm one of the first people that laid eyes on a vertical garden. You know, like they had them all over the U.S. Pavilion, where they're doing farming, you know, for restaurants on a vertical aspect. Mm-hmm. You know, that's newer here, 5-6 years. You know, I went to culinary school 11 years ago. So, you know, them doing vertical gardening, like, yeah, they were kind of showing the world, like, this is what we should do. And at the World's Fair, there's over, how many countries are there? Do we know?
I don't know. There's got to be like 300, close to 300 countries
I feel like
in the
it's
world.
181.
Caesar, shout it out if you can find it.
But at the World's Fair, every country has a booth, and every country was showing their food sustainability contribution to the world. So every country had food. Mm-hmm. So there was literally over 150 different world types of cuisine, which was awesome. I promise nobody has ever had a Belgian waffle. I promise you that, unless you've been to Belgium.
I have not.
Because that bite was like,
how many countries have we got?
195. 195? I was going to say 181, so I was close.
I thought it was in the high 200s.
So you figure that.
What do you mean? 197 to over 200?
They're generally considered to be 195 countries, comprising 193 United Nations member states and 2 UN observer states.
Okay, so it depends on like if people recognize certain nations. And
technically, like Washington D.C. is its own thing, like its own country.
What?
Yeah, the District of Columbia is technically like its own thing. It's not one of the 50 states. It's its own.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm thinking like
So these
territories.
pavilions were truly based on country budgets. You know, so there was, you know, if there's 190 countries, there was probably 140, 150 booths. But booths are like world's exhibits, like these insane exhibits that showcased art and technology and gardening and lights and different types of food and experiences. And everything inside was free. Like, you bought the ticket to get in, and like, you didn't pay for anything in there.
Yeah, they're just trying to showcase.
Yeah, it was all just samples. I mean, it was absolutely insane to be able to experience that. So, you know, when I was there for the 4th of July, and I was like, I'm going to go to the U.S. Pavilion because they got to do something. And I went by myself because nobody else wanted to come. So I was there, and I found another kid who happened to be from New York, and he was also traveling by himself and looking for something to do that day. We ended up playing soda pong on the pavilion, and then I was in Milan, and I moved on to Pisa to go meet a couple of buddies who were traveling from Farmingdale State who were in Florence, and I met them for the 4th of July because Florence is a huge college town for the U.S. You know, it's a big. Everybody who studies abroad, most chances are they're in Florence. So the 4th of July there, it's as American as you can get in Italy. So I spent 4th of July in Florence with those guys, and then we went to Pisa, that whole experience. So like every weekend, if you weren't working, like you took advantage of it and did what you could do. You know, but like I said, now being back, and yeah, like we are one of the small people from that group who did experience that. And only half of that group were culinary people. You know, some were just doing it for the experience. You know?
So the reason that I wanted to even have you on today, and we kind of discussed it before we started, was like, I think your story and where you are today is just a really cool story of like a culmination of a lifetime of experiences. And I wanted to talk about the different things that you've learned, but also the different things that you've tried and succeeded or failed at to get to the point where you are. So you finish up culinary school, and then what do you do when you get back to the States?
So I worked with my whole high school job. I worked at Gino's in Farmingdale. So I met a lot of people through that. And when I came back from culinary school, I had a job lined up at what was Porto Vivo right here on Girard Street.
Okay.
I was friends with the executive chef. He brought me in, and I worked there for a little bit. And that was my experience of, you know, high-end dining, just dinner service, you know, real prep and serve style, you know, everything, chef de cuisine, executive chef, like, you know, down the line. I was there for about 5 months, and then I did the Cancun adventure, which was, if you've ever heard of Student City or Grad City, they're basically like a travel agency that if you're a frat or sorority and you need to book 30 to 40 to 50 people, they take care of everything, the flight, the hotels, the clubs, your drinks, everything. So when you travel,
like
they
a spring
have
break
staff.
type of company?
Yes, all spring break.
I gotcha.
They have staff on the site that you're traveling to, so they sub out people to go be that staff. So we were looking for a spring break trip for us, and on the website it started with, do you want to work spring break, whatever year it was? And I like these random adventures, so I'm like, yeah. So the same way you're asking me my experiences, that was their questionnaire. So it was one of those things where it's like, they're not going to not pick me. I was like, I'm their ideal candidate. So, you know, I send it through. I request to go to Cancun because my neighbors were going to Cancun. I ended up going there. So that was 5 weeks in Cancun, and I wrote that off as like a group management paid internship because you were under control of a lot of people pretty much all the time. You know, you worked 6 days a week. You got to explore like crazy. I mean, it was an absolutely insane experience. I will never go back to Cancun. But it was awesome.
Got it out of your system after
yeah, got
5,
it out of
6 weeks.
Nobody needs 5 weeks in Cancun. So, you know, when I came back from that, that's when like the staircase started, where it's like, all right, now we got to find what we're doing. When I came back from there, I don't know, there was a mixture of working at the meatball place in Farmingdale. Somehow they must have misread my resume, but I was like the shift supervisor there, running the nighttime shift at 21 years old, you know, even to a point where they changed the age to get in, and I wasn't even of that age. And I was like, you're going to lose so much business if you cut off, you know, my drinking class and the year below us. You know, they were the drinkers. And they were always there. So, you know, now I started kind of like, I skipped serving. I never served and I never bartended.
Okay.
I was managing this place now, which was a 700-person bar, and truthfully, post 8 p.m., it was mine. You know, the management was gone, the owners were gone. I oversaw like the security, the DJs, both bars, the money, the bottles, like everything. It was wild for me to be doing that.
Maybe that's why it's gone now.
I'm just kidding. I was out before someone.
I
broke the rope.
There were a lot of things that went on there.
Yeah, I was gone before that. So that was that, and then I was sick of that, so I moved on for another interim job, and I did car transporting for like 2 months. That was fun because it was like gone in 60 seconds getting paid to do it. Like this guy we'd pick up license plates in the morning. This guy would drop us at high-end dealers. We'd pick up cars, and we would race back to Deer Park. That was it. It was great. Paid the bills while I found what was next, and then Westbury Jeep. Started selling Dodge, Jeep, Chrysler. First month ever selling cars, sold 22 cars. I was like, wow, I guess I can do this. And it was actually a really good paying job. But if you are familiar with that dealership, it is insanely busy and it absorbs your life. So when I had my daughter at that point, then I ended up taking an offer for an oil salesman from a customer that I sold a car to. She liked how I did sales and offered me a job because she was a sales recruiter. Took that. I hated the fact that there was no accountability as a door-to-door salesman. I need some kind of accountability. Like I can't have nobody checking on anything and like I was still getting a paycheck. Like that drove me nuts.
So they weren't just paying you on commission, like you had a base and then you had commission on top of that
yes.
for the oil?
And then there was also an online sales department that also sold my territory, so I would still get paid on their sales. So if you called and told them that you lived in my territory, you were getting an online person. If you sold that account, I got paid.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's a pretty sweet deal.
I could sit in my car, hang door tags, go do a tank reading once in a while, and still collect a paycheck. But that drove me nuts because I just felt like I was wasting so much time. So
when you were actually wasting time, what were you doing? Were you like...
I was creating Live Mic.
Okay.
So I was creating the record label where pretty much that's where our story starts.
Yeah, that's where we went to high school together, but we weren't like close.
We
at
were
that
acquaintances
time.
in high school, but I started building a record label around that time. I was around the music industry. I was seeing what Matt and Ryan were doing with bar crawls and stuff, and I was the house party guy. I was like, these guys are doing it and getting paid for it. So I was like, I kind of wanted to integrate myself with that a little bit. So I was basically the guy that if you were a startup musician, like I was able to put you through the real process of the business side of music. I did it. I did distribution, publishing, oversaw some stuff. There's no money in it. So I was doing it a while, learning as I went. But 2 months after we launched, COVID happened. And then there was really no money in the music industry. So I rode that out for a while. It just kind of disintegrated as is. It's still a name. I met a lot of amazing people in the industry, and I still love being able to go out in a shirt or a hat, and like that's how I'm known. I can go out without merch, and not a single person would know me. Mm-hmm. But I could put on a hat or a shirt that says Live Mic, and they're like, yes, and I love that.
I don't even think people in that community know your name.
Yeah.
Like you're just Live Mic.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Like I'm Mike. We did the podcast was called Live on the Mic. I'm Mike. And it always just rolled off. I'm not a musician. I never was. And I just did it for the good. I enjoyed being around events. I loved the execution side of events. Mm-hmm. Like, when we put StatFest together, like, we rigged those lights. There was no riggers. I mean, that wasn't really our fault.
We were there the day before for the first StatFest. We were there the day before in the
pouring rain
storm.
Yep.
It was like a tropical storm by the time it hit.
That was we actually didn't know that we were our own employees until probably like 3 hours before it actually happened, when we realized that the employees that were brought the trailer were just sets of hands.
They were just dropping it off.
They were just neighbors. Yeah, they were just neighbors that were just helping out the guys. So then we were like, oh, we didn't exactly have rigging the entire stage on our schedule. So now we did. But again, those experiences, those single emails and phone calls, like put you in circles that most people don't ever get to be in. Like I thought that I was doing the booking for that in the beginning, and for the first week I thought I was talking to a totally different band until an email crossed, and then I realized that it was a different band, and that's what kind of changed from being a pop punk-ish fest to like a reggae-ish fest because I had the wrong email. So, that's where that happened. And then through COVID, I really just, at that point, you're just kind of figuring it out. You're trying different things. I was doing that. I was day trading, which I was pretty decent at, but, as much money as you make, you lose in the blink of an eye. So, it was a great lesson. It taught you the potential, but the discipline is the hardest thing to learn with that. So at that point, it was really just what's making money right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was the biggest.
So I want to just stop you before you get to this one, because I think this is a big, like, you had like your
Here and there.
you had your culinary school experience, which I think is like a big portion. Then you had like a lot of tests and failures, or tests and things that you learn, right? We call that like your college in a way. It was like, hey, I'm just going through and trying all these new things and trying to learn them. And then you have this next phase in Honesdale that I think is like a big portion of your life as well, and another big portion like the culinary school. I'm
still dealing with it.
You're glossing over a lot of those little things, like, I did this, I did live mic, I did that. Like, I think the thing to talk about there is like you tried a lot of things, but you were always all in on those things.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big distinction to make. You said like 7 things in the course of, I don't know, 5 minutes, but those 7 things are like 5 years of your life, and you weren't like doing all of them at once. You were fully in this thing, and then something happened and you went on to the next thing, and then you were fully in this thing. Like, I think that's a key distinction to make, because a lot of people
they're scared to do that.
Well, at the beginning, they're scared to leave comfort or whatever. And what's comfort at that time? $50,000, $60,000, like whatever the paycheck is at the end of the day. Like, that's not a massive amount of money,
right?
But people are afraid to leave it for the next opportunity. But people will also watch this and go like, I have to do a million things to try and figure it out. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, you wound up doing a million things,
right?
But you were fully in them. Yeah. And like, you built a record label. Like, that's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. Like, you just kind of glossed over like, I started a record label. Yeah. It's like, you built this whole thing.
I did the real research.
A lot in that process.
That's what you have to do. It means you have to look at it as you have to learn as much as you can while you're in it. I didn't go to college. I was not a school person. The Air Force was kind of like the, what am I doing that's not going to be school? I'd started with the Marine recruiter and kind of made my way through, and I was happy with the Air Force. I was an air traffic controller. It was fun. But yeah, I mean, everything was a massive learning experience. Even the short time in the military, like, there's a heavy amount of discipline that comes from that short time, and I do feel like that people they have a different view when you bounce around. Even people in my like immediate circle, and it's usually the people who are in comfortable positions. Who don't like that you bounce around. It's people that have been around the same family, around the same business for their entire lives, multi-generation, where, a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday with overtime is life. Mm-hmm. And those are the people who don't necessarily understand, like, that every step is a different, it's a different learning experience. And don't get me wrong, like, it's fun, but it sucks. Like, I'm tired of trying different things. Like you said, PA, it was like the real first. I consider that kind of my college. I like to think that all the little things was like the life experience. Mm-hmm. And then like PA was college, and I'm still paying off my college loan. That's the best. That's the best way to look at it.
That's a good way to look at it.
But yeah, I mean, everything has to come together in a way. And if you want to do stuff on your own, you have to know a lot of things. And if you're not going to go to school, to learn from one person, then you have to experience multiple things to understand how things work. I have a big grasp on a lot.
I can tell you as someone who went to school that I didn't learn any of this shit there.
Like, right? You know, a fun fact where I just came back from last night. If there's any boaters watching this, if you've ever been to the New York Boat Show in the last 5 years, I am one of the 4 people that's the first in and the last out of that show to set up and break down that entire show, because of the short time that I worked at the marina, just as a holdover job. We get brought in as the marine fork operators that take all the boats off the trailers, put them on the ground, let them get blocked, and then pick them back up and put them on trailers. And there's 6 of us that operate that machinery that's non-union, and I'm one of those guys. And that is an insane random skill that I know. Like, I know how to move boats around better than most guys, because we're putting over 100 boats down and picking them up in a short period of time. And at this point, like, I'm trusted by that association to handle these things. And
I actually texted you to come on the show, and I was like, I proposed the date to you, and
Yeah.
you were like, oh, I got that
boat
boat
show.
show thing. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I still have that boat
Yeah.
show thing that I'm doing.
But no, I get called back every year because it's easier for them to bring me back. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly how everything works. And honestly, it's nice pay. You know, they put me up in the hotel for the weekend. They give us a food stipend that comes at the end. And it's an easy gig. You know, I basically walk with the forklift, make sure he doesn't hit anything, and yell at union guys for not doing anything. That's pretty much it. But you know, it's paying winter bills. You know, that's the best way for me to look at it. And every winter I get that call, and every February, like for the last 4 or 5 years, I've known that like, all right, you know, I have like a little thing that I can knock off some checklist items. So you know, that you got to keep that stuff in your back pocket.
Yeah. So let's get to Pennsylvania here. What's the why Pennsylvania? What are you trying to do? Like, what's the thought process?
Pennsylvania was the thought to possibly not be on Long Island anymore, because for obvious reasons. Just it's I don't know. I don't love living
a young
here.
guy trying to survive, and
Yeah, it's expensive here. I mean, plain and simple, it's ridiculously expensive here. You know, those who are in places, you know, good on them. You know, it's like a lot of people do a lot of things differently, but sometimes you got to look other places. And when you see the price difference, that's the 3-hour drive away. And when you go there, it's the most beautiful place you can go to. You're like, why am I not here? Like, I'll go visit home on the weekends.
So this is Honesdale, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And what were you looking to do? What were you looking
Basically
to do there?
bring everything together. You know, this was the first idea of it, and that's where the idea of the creative compound came to be. So everyone says, how did I find Honesdale? Because it's in the middle of nowhere. I went on a map on Google, and within 3 hours of New York, near a lake, brought me to that area. I found Lake Wallenpaupack in Hawley, and then did some digging into Honesdale. Saw that they were trying to do some revitalization on the town. And I was like, all right, well, you know, if there's somebody to go look into, it's a place that's going to try to invest in that. So I took a drive, went to go look, saw a building for sale. Tried to get my parents involved to also buy like an Airbnb or something to bring, you know, I just wanted to try anything at this point. And I'm looking at a different area at this point around the Honesdale area, find this building for sale. My dad wants to buy the commercial building. So, I mean, the size of the building to where it was to the interior of the building, like price-wise compared to what it would have been here, was absolutely insane. So we had a 3-story commercial building on Main Street in Honesdale and ended up opening up what was called the Creative Compound, then changed to the Compound, where I then learned about how a trademark overlap can happen. So inside the Creative Compound, basically the first level when you walked in was a ground level cafe that I had a one-of-one La Marzocco Leva X in, which is a lever espresso machine that was front and center on the counter. I went all in on building the front. It was all art inside. I really had minimal signage in the front just because the whole front was glass and there was so much to see the second that you walked up to it. Lewis did a lot of my art on the walls. Another local artist that I met from Live Mike.
Yep.
Brought him up to Pennsylvania, and he literally spent the weekend with me. And you know, it saddens me to know how much of his art is just sitting on painted walls in an unused building right now, because there's so much in there. But you know, this cafe was beautiful. I built in the back smash squared slider bar, which was basically just a slider bar. I did all fresh meat, fresh cut potatoes, all products from the area. I had a food truck painted on the wall and cut out the window, and behind the window was the kitchen, so that when you walked up to this wall, it looked like you were walking up to a food truck, and inside was the kitchen. And it was really cool. The concept was awesome. The burgers are great because everything, like I said, everything was fresh and local. But that's where I learned about like how sourcing is hard, especially in a rural area. Restaurant Depot was an hour away, and distributors needed a $500 minimum to deliver, but I was buying so much local stuff that you didn't necessarily need that. So now you're putting this puzzle together. And then the second and third floor became rentable office space. We had a teacher that did homeschooling in there full time. Me and her ended up becoming really good friends, and you know, the building was almost as much hers as it was mine because she had parents dropping off kids consistently. So, you know, it was a real win-win. You know, she was at home there. The third floor, unfortunately, like it didn't get used as much as I wanted it to, which really obviously, you know, resulted in the income not being too crazy. But that's where I really immersed myself in like the business world, and I got involved in small town politics. don't do that. Shit, especially if you're from New York. It was just, that was an insane experience because, you know, you had to speak up to get stuff done. Like, there was absolutely corruption going on, and you see it firsthand. You know, it was quite the experience. And again, the experience of that, I connected my music into that, and we turned this place into a media center. Every Monday night, we had the biggest open mic in the area. You know, we had to cap it at 17 performers because that's what would allow in our 3-hour time window. People would get coffee and burgers. We had hosts. We built a stage inside that was donated from members that would come to the open mic. We had bands every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, brunch sets, night sets. Like, it was insane how much art we pushed out of there. I did a rotating art gallery wall every month where I would rent it. You know, I would rent it to a local artist. I didn't do it for free because if I did it for free, I would have to say no. So I put a small fee on it because if you were serious about displaying and selling your art, you should be okay with a small fee for a month to be able to potentially make money.
I think that's something like just across the board that, especially when you're just starting up and you really don't have a lot of money, that you learn is like just the investment in yourself and the belief in yourself of like, all right, I have this dollar amount that's pushing me. It can force you into something. Right. Like, it can force you into like, all right, if I'm gonna spend whatever it is, let's say $500 to put my artwork up in this gallery, right, and try to sell my pieces for $200, $300, $400, like, I better sell 2 of them. Exactly. Right? And it can like put you in that scenario of like, I need to survive.
But then some people, like I had this one lady, she took old records and did abstract art on the records. That's cool. In all different color schemes. They were like drip paint styles, and they were like $20 to $30 each. And she loaded the wall with them. I didn't charge that much. I think I charged $300 for the month. But I always told people, I said, you can make back that in one sale. I said, I don't know what you have. You know, you can put up 100 things that are $20 and make a lot of money back, or you can put up $900 items. Like, we had somewhere none sold because everything was $500 plus. Yeah. But the entire store was a consistent gallery.
Yeah, that's cool. So what was why did that whole place not work?
Just straight up income. You know, I dove into it too fast. At one point, I dove into a second place way too soon, and I jumped in with a partner from Pennsylvania, and unfortunately, his timeline and no sense of urgency didn't get us to open up, and we missed 2 summer holidays before we got to open because the second spot was going to be on Lake Wallenpaupack. And Memorial Day and 4th of July are obviously huge in small town lake towns. Like, that's real. Those movies are real. But we missed both of those holidays because we didn't get to open in time. And that was just because, like, trying to get work done in a timely manner was really hard up there. You know, it got to the point where we would get told so many times, like, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. And then it was like, you got to tell somebody else to wait. You know, at some point, like, I can't be told that somebody else came ahead of us. And that led to a lot of problems, a lot of problems. So that one was really like, we were literally only open for like a month because I had double staff. My staff was massive at one point. I was paying a New York wage in Pennsylvania, which I truthfully didn't realize that minimum wage was 50% of what it is here. The kids at the ice cream store making $3 an hour because it was a tipped position. Like, that is just mind blowing to me. And then I'm like, I'm looking up ways to reduce pay, and basically like, sorry, you know, unless you're gonna fire everybody and then rehire them, but then, you know, not get sued because you fired them because you're paying them too much. Like, it was just so many things that you had to figure out, and you know, there wasn't enough income that came in. It was really like a 3-month area because winters are brutal. People don't go out in the snow. Unfortunately, small town and snow don't go well together, and you know, not to call them out, but it's just like small town Honesdale just like does not care about their small businesses, and like it showed through big time, especially in the winter, and it still does. You know, like I see posts that happen, and that really deterred people from coming to the town because people are getting constantly ticketed. You know, they try to be really strict on parking when it's like super unnecessary, and nobody's really friendly there. You know, we had we had our circle, but just being from Long Island was you know, people look at you like, we don't even want to deal with you.
Like an outsider.
Front platers, as they call us.
Oh yeah. So this doesn't work out.
Correct.
Right? What are you when it does eventually close down? What's the feeling like?
It took a while
It's
to
gotta
accept
be
it.
Defeating.
Yeah, it definitely was defeating, but you also have to realize that at some point you have to like pull the plug at an appropriate time before it's too late. And like we like to think that we sold the building at an appropriate time, but you know, truthfully, like we sold the building and like we didn't see a dollar. You know, like it just we were surprised when we got the call from the lawyer. Was like, "Where's anything?" And they're like, "No, everything just went to something." So you know, bringing all this stuff home, trying to find a spot for it. Like there was so much shit that you couldn't even necessarily use, but like I wasn't going to leave. You know, we tried to do a huge sale. We tried to do an auction. That was a fucking nightmare. That also led to a ton of problems. Like everything just led to problems. Like it seems like at some point everyone tried to take advantage of you in some way. And listen, I'm not going to say that we were perfect up there. Like, yeah, we pissed some people off. I'm sorry. But, you know, you know, like, yeah, I'm still paying for it. I really never walked away clear from that. You know, there's still debt to be paid off, unfortunately. And right now, like, what you do after that is that you just have to find stuff to make up for what you did. But I check that off as college. Like, I tell that was college because, truthfully, not many people get to also experience starting and closing a business of that size. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to say unscathed at all because, obviously, there's shit about it, but you know, to be able to do that is a huge experience in itself. And then once that closed, I mean, I really had to start figuring out what to do. That's truthfully where the latte truck came into play, because I had the espresso machine, and like I knew that espresso machine was going to be my business going forward. So that's where the mobile espresso bar kind of fell into place. Mm-hmm. I was going to, as I'm up there, I'm obviously figuring out what's next because now I'm sitting in my office as we're just waiting for the building to sell or time to pass. We did one New Year's Day party. It was a potluck open mic as kind of like the farewell. That was fun. I drove up there on New Year's Eve, got up there at like 11:50, as backwood country New Year's as I could possibly get. My friend's waving a flashlight down a mud road, like telling me where him and his boys are at a cabin. They're drinking Busch Light Apple. Gross.
Oh, Apple?
Apple.
I've never heard of that.
Well, that's because you don't live in Honesdale.
Yeah, when I went to school in Pennsylvania, Busch Light was a staple.
Yeah, Busch Light Apple is just
but
like
apple.
Oof. So you know, whatever. We had New Year's, and then the next day, I opened up the store, and everybody brought food. I made a pile of chicken cutlets and chili. That was my thing, because growing up, we used to go to New Year's Day at my great grandma's, and there was always a pile of chicken cutlets. And nobody's, you know, some of the OG Italians, like, they don't know good chicken cutlets up there. So someone's got to make them. So that was it. That was like my farewell thing. Was we had a huge party. It was awesome. That's kind of like where we said our goodbyes. And then unfortunately, the person who ended up buying the building, like, didn't do anything with it. Mm-hmm. We believe that she just had to put money somewhere. And that happened to be the victim. There's no tenants in there anymore. You know, I've been told that, like, the mail piles up. So it's like, it's sad to know that, like, it's just completely untouched. But then my plan was that I was going to do this business called the Lunchbox Express. It was going to be meal prep specifically for elementary school age kids because
so timeline wise, where are we now?
Oh, this is like as the building is being sold.
This is like 23, 24, 2023, 2024?
23, I would say.
I remember you calling me with that idea.
Yeah. So it's funny enough, like I'll get into that. But that was basically, I was going to do meal prep specifically for elementary age kids, and when your kid gets to elementary school, you'll know why. Making lunch is a pain in the ass. School food sucks. I think it's absolutely insane that, like, my kid's school lunch menu is the same as, like, our school lunch menu when we were in elementary school.
Yeah,
like,
but now they know all the they know all the crap.
Exactly.
Like they have information to make better decisions, and they're not.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy like that. When I see that fried chicken drumstick on the menu, I just remember that nasty, soggy fried chicken that we used to get.
Like chicken patty Thursdays.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, that was the idea. It was like it was going to elevate lunches for kids. Obviously, there'd be a cost to it. But, you know, at a point that was like $40 a week to a parent, which you're spending in the store anyway to go buy 5 of the same thing. So I typed out this whole thing. Again, like you say, I'm all into it. Like, I bought the latte truck for that. Like, this was this mini little truck that was going to be the lunchbox. So I was going to use that as a delivery car because the marketing on this thing, it's a 1996 right-hand drive Subaru Sambar. It's awesome. That was going to be the delivery vehicle, which is easy marketing, which I now know is. I sent out a ton of letters to schools, a lot, like to principals, trying to get it, and I got 0 responses. So I'm like, okay, move on. So then I knew that I wanted to put the espresso machine in the back of the truck. That was like my mobile espresso idea. This is a 250-pound, 2-group, massive piece of machinery that I was going to put in this like 56 horsepower mini truck. And I did, because there was a group at the auto show at the Javits Center that was making a space for these imported Japanese cars. And I was like, wow, advertising. So somehow, 3 months after I bought this car and closed my store, now the mini truck is on display in the Javits Center in its own circle of like 3 other mini cars, fully open with my giant espresso machine in the back, cleaned up. Everything is brand new. Like, I basically did the build for this show. And that was my first level of advertising, which was pretty wild. Now I'm already connecting dots because I'm driving through the freight lanes of the Javits Center, and I'm passing guys on the forklifts who I work with at the boat show. So, like, those circles are starting to connect. And now I have it in there for a week. But now I'm just kind of like trying to piece together income at this point. That's where I found the job at Coliseum Kitchen Catering and 2 spots in Northport. They brought me on as like a quote unquote culinary director. I don't know what the hell I was directing. But that was just like, I guess like it was almost like a me in 30 years that never figured out his ADHD, where it's just like you try to throw so many things at the wall, but I was the stick. Like if something got thrown at the wall, like it was mine to figure it out. And I was like, oh, this guy's going to pay me to do what I do anyway. But it was absolutely wild to do it under somebody. And the team that I was given at one of the pizzerias just like was not having it. And, we had that conversation. I was like, it's not my team. But this is where I really started to build what is now the Chef's Pantry.
Yeah. So when you first started talking to me about the Chef's Pantry, it all clicked for me. Like I had been following everything that you've ever done, and it all felt to me disjointed at times until this moment. Right. It was like, and I think I may have even said something to you to that effect of like, this feels like what you're supposed to be doing because it's everything that you've learned. You went through that education of culinary school and then your college of, trying all these different things and then having the business in Pennsylvania. And now you get to put all of those skills and those things together under something that you're passionate about.
Right.
So what is the Chef's Pantry?
So the Chef's Pantry is a specialty importer and Italian distributor that focuses on authentic Italian product and slow food out of Italy. I feel like I could tighten that up a little bit.
We'll come back to it. You're importing products that nobody else can get.
Yes.
In this area.
Yes.
And
so that's where my
is it like what's the reason? Why are you trying to bring this quality food here?
Because when I usually say that I went to culinary school in Italy, the reaction is, oh my God, you must be this amazing chef. I don't consider myself a chef. I don't. I feel like that title is held for a lot of better people than me, so I don't necessarily love being called chef. I am an ambassador in a way for these higher end authentic products because in culinary school you learn that real Italian cuisine is really quality and simplicity. That's it. Everything is extremely minimal. Other than salt and pepper, there's nothing. You don't really find seasonings. Everything is just real. Like when we had our final for school, we had to make our own shopping list for the dishes that we wanted to create. Any fruits or vegetables, there was no store. You went out to the garden with a basket. And I feel that right now, in the age of the influencer Cisco world, there's so much stuff that's out there that's really not quality. It's just image. It's just marketing. that there is only a few people left who are starting to now showcase what's actually out there. I feel as if there's a generational switch happening at this point, which truthfully, multiple people have agreed with me. So I guess I like to think that I'm onto something. But we are in a time of a generational switch where the Nonas, and that age of grandparents and that generation, truthfully, whichever way you want to look at it, within the 10 to 15 year mark, that generation is going to be non-existent. Those old school places that are 90, 100 plus years old in Brooklyn and the city, if they don't have people to pass it down to, they're not going anywhere. I know there's a pizzeria, it might be in Brooklyn, that was a 100 plus pizzeria. They don't have an heir. There's no family to pass it down to, and there's nobody who can appropriately buy it. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of like the old school to new school switch right now, is that if no one has taken over those old family businesses, then it is up to the couple of us who are starting to bring these products in. I've managed to make myself a catalog where pretty much everything that I have, I'm the only one on Long Island who has it here. And that's nothing more than I've just found it. These are products that I did try to bring into my last job, but that's where I learned that the big name distributors don't always carry them because they won't sell enough, because most of the people out here, I would say a solid 80% are a how much group rather than a what is it group.
Yeah.
And that's what...
Well, I think you're talking about two different generational switches, right? So there's the old school mom and pop places that are starting to go by the wayside. Right. And I've talked about this with several different people of that middle market restaurant doesn't exist anymore. Right. They're all going out of business. Mm-hmm. It's because prices on things are rising, right, and nobody wants to pay $40, $50 a head for dinner for something that's not a peak experience, right? Exactly. So you have the low end of the taco trucks and the carts and things that are popping up that are doing extremely well, and then you have the high end of the restaurant groups where you're going to spend $100, $200 a person depending on the meal, and that kind of middle ground is starting to disappear. So that's one angle of it. Then you have the education on food and the things that we're putting in our body that is starting to take place. It's becoming more a part of the conversation of maybe we shouldn't eat all this processed garbage.
Right. And that truthfully, a lot of businesses market that for me. There are plenty of people out there who love talking about their flour, who need to use that as their marketing. They have to push the chemicals that used to be in that they don't have chemicals, and they're wearing masks and they're blaming other people for doing things. It's so ridiculous at this point. But I have people that come into my store and will ask about that. I've had multiple people who, within 24 hours of landing from Europe, will come to the store, somehow found an ad, and they'll say, I ate pasta in Italy and I don't feel fat. What is it? And I know exactly which product to bring them over to. I have a line of pasta that does meet that requirement. It's not cheap, but it meets that requirement. It's technically, it can be eaten by people who have gluten intolerances. I can't say it's gluten-free because it's not, but it's free of gluten because of the way it's processed. I also know for a fact that it doesn't spike blood sugar for diabetics. So it's interesting how when you do use a higher end product, it does have multiple effects on people. But with all the people talking about all of that, it's easy for me to sell these products now, especially the flours.
Yeah, just in general, I think there's a movement towards people wanting to understand what they're putting in their bodies, wanting to understand where it's sourced from. And you're talking about people want to have, or you wanted to have good quality ingredients when you're eating Italian food in Italy. Right. It's simple. It's good olive oil. It's good meats and cheeses. It's a handful of ingredients that are all natural and they're all thrown together.
Exactly.
And it's just that's what makes a great meal and a great dish.
So that's kind of the basis of the chef's pantry. Is I choose one brand of each item that suits everything. I carry one line of pasta where I have a full line of regular organic semolina pasta. I have higher end ancient wheat pasta, single ancient grain. I have specialties, originals, gluten-frees. There's no reason to have a different option. I have ones that are, I have one brand that's much more small town, has the local stamp on it. But I don't love it. It's not my favorite, but this other one, It's the only pasta that you can make it where you can open up the pot and you're like, wow, it smells good. Like the steam smells good. So same thing with sauce. You know, I sell muti. People love muti. Everyone who's been to Italy knows muti. If anyone is Italian, you know muti. Their marketing brings people into the store. I have a muti sticker on the front of the store. I've had multiple chefs come in to check out the store because they saw the muti sticker. Then they come see all this other stuff that they're not used to seeing, you know, other than a couple of high-end stores for some of them. Some of them I am the only one on Long Island that has them, and you know, I stick true to that. But that's how I sell the product. You know,
So who are you selling to? You have the market, right, on Broadway in Massapequa.
Yes. So that storefront is like the sandwich shop where we use everything in the store, and our shelf market. You know, you can go in, you could buy anything off the shelf. We can sell cases out of there.
So I can buy the salami that you have.
Yeah.
Or I can buy the sandwich made with those ingredients.
Correct. Same thing with that. It really comes into play with the balsamic because we have a vast balsamic display. You know, over 30 types, more incoming, different olive oils, and I use a lot of those across the sandwich menu. Most of them are open, so you know we have the opportunity to taste everything. And I use my food knowledge where if I'm out eating at a restaurant, I try something on a menu, I'm like, oh, this compare well with a higher end product that they may not have access to. So then, you know, that's kind of how I will feel a sale. You know, I have some well-respected chefs who do come in and shop there, which makes me feel good.
So you can go direct to the household, right? Someone can come in and buy these products for themselves, or you're working with the restaurant side to distribute to the restaurants and make sure they're getting quality products.
Correct.
So what are the type of restaurants? Is it mostly Italian restaurants that are working with you?
Yeah, higher end Italian, old school. You know, I have one guy who I found out was going through multiple channels to try to get the pasta that I sell, because he understands quality. You know, he likes using that. He doesn't want to take a shortcut. So that got me in that door. And then he uses a lot of my unique products for specials, you know, to amp up some things that were on the menu. My first client was Osteria Tolina in Babylon, and I basically made my catalog based off her menu. It was a fully Emilia Romana style restaurant. The menu was everything like to a T, exactly what I know. So the chef, Brittany, she was very familiar with everything that I had. Her husband, same thing, loved it. And, you know, I walked in the back door while they were building the restaurant and just had a great conversation. It all just kind of started there. And like that, you know, I'm able to pretty much name drop the restaurants that I'm in to get the next one. You know, I'm not going door to door trying to sell sausage and cheese to pizzerias. You know, that's not my place.
So this is going to be my difficult question for you.
Oh man.
In this world of that you've mentioned of like how much not quality, why should a restaurant that is trying to make ends meet invest in a higher quality product with you?
It's really, I feel like it's based on the chef who's actually putting out the dishes. A lot of the stuff that I have is finishing product, and I'm really searching for the place where this product can be used on a $40 dish. You know, not necessarily like use this cheese because it's a little bit cheaper or a little bit more expensive but a little bit better. Right now, I feel like the sell point of that is if you want to be different and use stuff that's not commercialized, that's what I carry. You know, when people ask me olive oil, like I always get asked, what's different than Partana? You know Partana. It's everywhere. It's the red and gold cans. They're all over the place. Distributors sell them. You know, there's a guy that sells them out of his trunk. But when people ask the why, I say because that's a brand that's created for export. You're not going to find that on a shelf in Italy anywhere. It's made for us. So, you know, no one's able to really track back where the olive came from. We started selling Spanish olive oil where, you know, I'm buying it from the first-hand importer who's buying it from the owner, who was the guy who's tasting the olives. Like, that's the big difference, is just knowing where the starting point is for a lot of stuff. It is hard to sell a lot of product because of that. The olive oil game is just wild. You know, there's really no, there's not too much of an open market for that. I have to find people who aren't using bulk, like crazy amounts. Like, you know, some pizzerias just squirt it out like water. You know, they're getting whatever 4 3 liters for next to nothing. It's hard for me to make any money on that if I want to. I will go for like the higher end stuff where it makes a difference, where then, it makes me look good to be able to post up my product in that spot being used. So it's not necessarily a need, it's more of a want. I make products accessible that kind of sell themselves.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to argue with you on that. I think it is a need for a certain place.
Yes.
Right? I say this about what we do. And we have, this is a crude, I guess, example, right? It's not exactly one-to-one, but I have people coming to us for podcasting work, for video work, who have been working with someone and are unhappy with the quality of like the clips, let's say. This is a common one that I get, is like, hey, we filmed this podcast, it looks great, I sound great, but the guy's just like throwing it in AI, and the clips that I'm getting are just kind of shitty, right? And they're like, they don't really do anything. It's not really telling the story that I wanted to tell or this. So we have some people coming to us now that are like, we like the style that you're going with, we like the personal touch. And in a day and age where everyone's trying to utilize AI to find the shortcut or do the thing, well, I want them to continue, because it's creating a market for those that don't want to take the shortcut. We utilize AI, but we're not just like throwing the thing in and then saying that it's done. Oh, that's perfect. Let's use that. It's using it as a tool to enhance what you're doing, as opposed to just using it as the shortcut and saying it's done.
I use it all the time.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's great. I mean, if you're not using AI, you're probably falling behind in today's day and age, but it's how you're utilizing it. If you're just relying on it and then it's spitting out a thing and you're like, that's good, 100%, it's done. It's like, you got to use it for that, like, middle 80%.
I use it for recipes.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, I'm not a baker by any means necessary, but, I've nailed my bread. I started with ChatGPT.
Baking's an exact science. I can't bake for shit because I just throw ingredients in a pot.
Exactly. So you need a starting point. So that's, I've used ChatGPT for that, because it's digging what's out there. There's like, I don't know, 72 million pizza guys talking about how many different types of balls of hydration they made, and, everything pizza. So it's digging through all of that information, and it's giving you so much information and spitting out one recipe. So you start there and you tweak from there.
You just test.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess that's the thing is, or my point in bringing this up is, there are people who don't want the shortcut and realize that not taking it, and in your case, the shortcut is buying 5 gallons of olive oil for a cheap price.
Right.
That is, it's bitter and it doesn't taste good.
Right.
But when you're just using it to throw on top of a pizza at the end, and you're using it like water, like you said,
it can just be okay.
Yeah. That's not necessarily your market, and those aren't the people who care. Your people are artists. They're the chefs who really do care about the end product and what they're creating, and I think there's always going to be a market for that. Yeah, and it's probably growing right now.
The void that I feel is like the distributors are just too big. That's really what it comes down to. Is not everybody wants to use what distributors have. If your distributor doesn't have something, but the other distributor has one thing that you want, you can't get that one thing. You have to get that one thing plus 49 other things to hit their minimum. And just to get there, you have to spend like an hour signing your life away, because they ask so much freaking information about you.
We could go down the rabbit hole of distributors and
exactly.
Like 80% of restaurants have like the same 4 brands of chicken. Or what, like it's. You can't even really disturbing places when you go down that rabbit hole. It is.
So I guess when you say that, yes, that's the void that I feel, is like I'm that middleman. I carry full lines of product that the big guys don't have, and that's how I get into places. I'm not saying you got to order 50 cases for me to show up to your restaurant. I'll be like, no, I will happily walk in with 3 cases in my arms just to be able to take a picture of the product in the restaurant. For now, obviously.
But because you're trying to perpetuate the future of this thing. It's not just yes, I want to sell this product, and yes, you have to put food on the table. Right. You got to make your money.
Like right now,
but you're trying to like bring in the next generation of these products, and you're trying to keep the tradition going and
Right.
really care about the end product.
Yeah, I'm okay with the small right now because, I can't move numerous pallets fast. So it's like when I'm placing the stuff all around, getting people to try it as I'm behind the scenes trying to grow. The goal is to have a nice warehouse here where if those of you who don't know, Jersey at this point is basically Italy. The amount of warehouses in Italy near the ports that have real Italian product in it is through the roof.
You mean Jersey?
In Jersey, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where everything comes from. Everything that we get, if we're getting it direct from the manufacturers, we're getting it from their warehouse in Jersey. All that means, like when everyone says, oh, we're using imported. Not necessarily. At some point it was imported, but it's also probably been in a warehouse in Jersey for a couple months and your distributor happened to drop it off to you. But that's where the good stuff lies. These guys have routes where, boats are dropping off containers and they're dropping off in these little hidden garages that you don't know about. And that's where all the good stuff is hidden. But my plan is to be pretty much one of the prominent warehouses here. That's like the extension of that, because I'm going to get all my stuff from there now, just to bring it this way. And what they're telling me is I'm one of the few people who is doing that, who's going that direction, taking it, not stopping in Manhattan or not going around Brooklyn and the boroughs, bringing that real stuff to Long Island. I'm one of the first doing it. And that just keeps opening up doors.
For anyone watching how can they help you?
As far as like customer wise, like how can
I don't know.
Spread the knowledge. Like
what do
right
you need
now,
help with?
Spreading knowledge. Right now I think that's my biggest thing is I'm going to start really trying to educate people on what we have and why to use it and how to use it.
So if there was one thing that you wanted anyone watching to know, what would it be?
Read the back of your products.
What should they be looking for?
Anything that you can't pronounce shouldn't be in it. I like things that have not a single extra ingredient in it. Sauces, pastas especially, nothing enhanced. That's all stuff that you should look for. I get questioned about what pastas to buy in the supermarket. I don't know what brands are out there because I get anxiety when I walk down an Italian aisle, the amount of pastas and sauces. That's truthfully what started the one brand thing. I was like, no one knows what the hell they're buying. There's way too many decisions to make in one aisle.
It's a cool concept of like, hey, I'm gonna pick the best of each of these products, and like that's my product line.
Yeah, and anything that you need to make, I have that product for it. And it's just a better item of that. So like at the store, everything that leaves the store is good. I'm not recreating the wheel, but I have really good product that I'm putting together and sending it out. So what do I want people to know and how to try? Come to the sandwich shop, because that's where you'll learn everything. That's where you'll taste it, you'll see it, read it, learn about it. I love when people ask questions. I have way more interested people come in the shop than I thought, who will deep dive into the different balsamics with me, bakers who come in who are asking for what type of flour should I use to make this. Now I have a whole booklet of the best uses of all the flours in the store. I now have a new audience of diabetics who come interested in this pasta that I have because it doesn't spike blood sugar. I'm trying to convert at least one pizzeria into using this flour that I have. Right now, Caputo has the market. Right now, the couple of companies that spend the money on the marketing holds the market. People buy it because it's out there and they know that they should use it. Right now, I want one or two pizzerias to try what we have and put it, help us get it into the masses, because that helps my relationship. Then I just become a broker. Then I'm just moving product. I'm helping you increase your quality. I'm helping you be different, just not be a follower in this industry. But the storefront is the best way to come experience it all.
Where's the storefront?
Is in North Massapequa, 830 North Broadway. We are right next to where Puccinella's is and the Chess store. That's been there forever. You can find us on Instagram at the Chef's Pantry as well. And another way that you can taste our tradition is through catering. That's kind of how we showcase everything. We offer catering. Our specialty is on-site catering, where we're coming to your venue, your house, pop us up in a warehouse, and we can make a full dinner experience happen. Anywhere from 10 people. We've done 150 people outside of the marina, and anything in between. Appetizers through desserts, full service. We can get waiters and bartenders And that's the thing. We do catering through experience rather than heat it up and drop it off.
I can say from experience
Yes.
that, and I've mentioned it many times on this podcast, I'm part of a group that does dinners on like a quarterly basis, and there's like 5 members in the group, and we just rotate who hosts, right? And the idea was we were going to go to some of the nicest restaurants on Long Island, maybe even going into the city for this year, and we wanted to try just really good food, have great conversations with great people about business, and enjoy ourselves.
Yeah.
And when it came my turn to host, we'd been going to all the steakhouses, right? Prime, I don't know, a bunch of them. I think we're doing Tellers in a couple of months.
You're supposed to do Tellers Thursday, but got me instead.
Yeah. So my turn came. I rented out instead of just booking a steakhouse and telling them our budget, I rented out the Huntington Loft here in Huntington, and then I brought in Mikey and I said, here's my budget. I would like to create an experience, and I kind of like told you exactly what I wanted, and you went above and beyond. You nailed it. And every single person that left that dinner was like, that was our favorite experience that we've had so far with this. It was very different. The meal was phenomenal. The steak that you put together.
And there's no kitchen.
And there was no kitchen. Yeah, you did it all on like hot plates in the back.
A sink and a table. And let's see, what do we pump out? I made sushi from scratch.
Yeah.
Because I taught one sushi class. I was like, I can do this. I literally had leftover seaweed. So I made tuna. I made a spicy tuna sushi and this word keeps slipping away from me, anchovy oil. I can't remember the word.
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't know, right?
I don't know it.
It's what used in Caesar dressing instead of anchovies. I put that in sous vide salmon with a little bit of garlic and salt in it, and that was the other sushi roll. So that was course 1. Then you guys got the raviolo.
Yeah, the one big raviolo. Oh my god!
Everybody got one big raviolo because
so
no one knowing what was going on in the back. I thought it was a good idea to make these ravioli at the spot. We're at the on site. I was going to do this. The plan was ravioli, but when I realized I forgot to bring flour, and I'm not in a kitchen, and there is no flour anywhere to be found, instead of me being able to make multiple ravioli per person, everybody ended up getting one large one.
It was great.
But I kid you not, I get more compliments on that giant ravioli than anything. So it's just funny how that works. Like, you got to make it work with whatever you have or what you don't have. The steak was hanger steak. I sous vide cooked that, so it was already cooked when it was there. And then my little $50 H Mart grill, go shop at H Mart. I seared the life out of these steaks, and they were absolutely insane. They were crazy. Some veggies on there, and dessert. The espresso bar always comes.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yep.
Unexpected too. So it was cool.
I travel with an espresso machine always. So any event that we're at, I will pop it up. Full latte bars on site. And truthfully, that one dinner already got me more business. I've been into networking events from that. I'm doing another dinner for you guys on Thursday in a warehouse.
This will come out much later. So,
yeah.
But by the time you're watching this, I already enjoyed the great meal that we're about to have on Thursday.
Having lamb chops, scallops, risotto.
Well, that just goes to prove that if you're in the room with the right people,
right,
your worth and your value gets recognized, right? Yeah. Like everyone saw what you did. You had Jason from Imperial who was like, "Oh, you can bring the latte truck to my job sites and like feed my people and like bring coffees and stuff as like a nice little thank you for my staff." Like, right. He didn't. That was fucking cool, right? He's excited for that. Then you got the Adams who was like, "This was a great experience. I want to do it again, but I want to do it my style, and we're gonna do it again on Thursday." And Adam's hosting, and he brought you in to do it. And then there's another guy in that group who, reached out to you for catering as well. And it's like you meet the right people,
right?
And a lot of opportunity can come from.
So like a lot of people tell me that I do way too many things, which is true. I do a lot, but everything is like it's a circle. Like any part of what I do can't be left out, and the business just kind of comes naturally. Like
I think there's a I guess 2 schools of thought on that, right? There's the like niche down and do the one thing that you're best at, group. And then there's the like, just take any opportunity that can possibly come your way,
Right.
and go with it school of thought.
That's kind of where I'm at.
But I feel like I feel like that's not you. I feel like you have your products, right? And as long as those products all fit underneath your umbrella and can feed each other. Do you remember Brandon Haverla from Red Max?
Yes.
I just had him on. He's opening up his third business right now. His episode's actually coming out on Monday, so by the time people see this, it's already out. Mm-hmm. He's starting up his third business that's called Red Max Warehouse. So it's clothing, right? Merchandise and stuff like that, because he couldn't find someone who could do what he wanted to do with like the embossing on his hoodies. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I'm just going to do it then. Everyone's telling me no. I'm pretty sure I can figure this out. And then he opened up a business. And I completely lost my train of thought. All of these things work together and can feed each other, right? He's got the sign printing business, he's got the big fabrication business, and then he's got the merchandise business now that is, at one point in time, you can come here for this thing and then realize, oh, he does signage. Oh, he does vinyl signs. Mm-hmm. Oh, he can fabricate this massive experiential booth for me when I go to this trade show. Like, as long as there's an entry point that introduces them to your ecosystem, mm-hmm. and those things are well thought out,
right,
then you can have multiple lines of service. It's similar to the studio with my business. Right. It's like, it is a separate entity. It's a separate business, but it's another product line for me in the same line of business. Right. So you have the catering, you have the direct-to-consumer in the market, mm-hmm. and then you have your restaurants. And that seems pretty clear and clear-cut to me. It doesn't seem like you're doing too much.
Yeah, and I just happen to get all the products direct.
Well, I think that's the genius of it. When it's like your margins are probably greater than someone who's just a restaurant who's doing this, because you're able to supply yourself with the products that you're importing.
Like the balsamic that I use. I mean, obviously I sell it for what I sell it at, but like when I use it on sandwiches, like, you're not buying that anywhere for the price that I get it, mm-hmm. that I'm buying it for in Italy. But, same thing with the flour. Like, I started making my own bread with the flour that I'm using, but it's the best way to sell it.
What does a sandwich cost in your shop?
$15.
The $15 for the biggest, most delicious sandwich you're ever going to have.
Yeah.
With the best ingredients. Like, you're not getting that anywhere.
Right. And anywhere you go to get a sandwich now, that's a Boar's Head Deli, is going to cost you $15.
You go to Subway and it's
$5 furlongs, $15 now.
Yeah. For a garbage sandwich.
I hate that the sandwich industry is just so stuck on a Boar's Head semolina sandwich, mm-hmm. prosciutto, mozzarella, and fig jam, chicken roasted pepper and mozzarella. Like, this industry is just so stuck on these same boring sandwiches. Yes, there's a couple people doing it right. I hear of this place in Hicksville, Smart Witch.
I've never heard of him.
Tried it yet. It's like an extension of a bakery, and he is making Portuguese rolls into heroes.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, I love that because I make focaccia into rolls. So I'm like, you're making a sandwich. You're making bread specifically for your sandwich. You're selling the sandwich as if it's a dish. When you walk in, there's a glass window so you can watch us make the sandwiches when we make it for you. And some guy told me the other day, which was cool. Again, any of these crazy Boar's Head delis that you go into are operations. I mean, wildly busy. Just, blink your eye, computer sends tickets, stuff pops out from all over the place. It's just a sandwich. It's just an assembly line. The guy was telling me, he was like, I would rather come here because, you make sure that it's done before you wrap it. You're observing the sandwich as you would like a dish, topping it, because I have a full line of different balsamics in front of me. Sometimes I'll give people options if conversation allows. But it's just so precisely finished, and even down to the cut. My videos have taken off because I figured out that people like my 2-cut method. When I cut my sandwiches, I do the first slice or two with a serrated knife to cut the top of the bread. Then I put that down and I take a sharp, smooth knife and cut through the rest, because that will gently cut the meat and not rip through it. You'll notice on Thursday when you're cutting your steak, it's not going to be a serrated knife. I hate serrated knives. They rip food. So like that's, even down to that last detail, it just makes that cut so much cleaner. And then when you bite into it, it's just, it's different. It's the people that see it, people observe it. We emphasize it in videos when we do it. So, that attention to detail is definitely what gets people to come back.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry to have to cut this off because I feel like we could talk for hours.
We can.
But I have someone else coming in soon.
That's fine.
So we gotta flip this place over. Once again, where can people find you? How can they get in touch?
So we are located at 830 North Broadway in North Massapequa. The storefront for the rest of the winter is open Wednesday through Saturday. And then we will open up for more hours and days as we get into warmer weather. You can find us on Instagram at The Chef's Pantry LI, as well as Facebook. And from there, all of our links take you to our link tree, which has catering menus, pricing, how to book us, information about our products, and everything.
Awesome, dude.
That's pretty much it.
Thanks. I'm excited to see what comes next.
I'll have to bring you guys lunch one day.
Oh, I'm down.
There you go.
Anytime.